it's pretty obvious that the Books of Magra is about writing. It's called the Books of Magra. But the actual heart of the Books of Magra is the pairing between music and writing. But for right now, I wanted to talk just about the writing. The series itself is focused on a series of books that lay out a narrative process in a solar system. And each book is titled by a specific concept that is explored throughout the book. And each book is actually at once a standalone experience that is a part of a greater whole that includes all the other books. And each book has different characters. Sometimes there are the same locations, and there are very varying degrees of arcs of relationships between those characters and books throughout the series. But this series of books is the heart of, well, the heart, I've used heart a lot already. It's the central spine is this story, these stories together and their relationships. So far, I've published the first book, this one. It's the first edition. There is going to be a second edition. And the first book, the Books of Magra Haxos, explores this idea of Haxos, which basically is about change and stasis. And that's all I'll say. This first book, when I published it, when I wrote it and I published it as its first edition, really enabled me to get to understand how to create the rest of the series. And so, in fact, right now I'm working on book 2, 3, and 4 at the same time. I'm not trying to finish book 2 and then go on to book 3. There's always been a writing of all the books at the same time because of the scale of concepts and relationships. But after publishing that first book, I really realized that I need to work on 2, 3, and 4, basically with the intention of releasing them within months of each other, whenever that'll be. Now, this spine of these narratives of these books is 6 books altogether. But there are other books that are related to and come out from that spine. The first major one would be the end of the spine, which is book 7. And book 7 is actually a collection of appendices. And in those appendices are a variety of writings about how I worked out certain things for what you find in the books. Some of the appendices go into greater detail about the concepts. Some of the appendices open up some ideas of physics or logic or reason that are in the series. So it's a variety of writings that are there. Now, along with that 7th book is smaller books that are actually referenced within the narrative series of those 6. So, for example, in book 2, there's a character who reads a book of fairy tales, which I'm writing also at this time. It's about novella length. And in other books, a couple other books, there's a couple characters who actually keep journals. And so I'm also actively writing those entries from time to time. Now, whether those entries will appear in the actual books or not, I'm not sure. But the actual process of discovering which entries will appear in the books comes with me writing their journals. So that probably puts the number of books sitting at about 10 or 11 at this point. And quite honestly, there could be more, but I don't have all clarity on that right now. The one other book that I do know is in the works, because I'm working on it, sits in a kind of separate state from these other books I've talked about. And this book is specifically about sound and the music of the Books of Magra. So just to stray a little bit off the topic of writing, because the Books of Magra is a pairing of writing and music. Each book in the series of 6 has a complementary album of music. But also, I'm writing music that is intended for other purposes. So for live performance, and also music that is conceived of and created with architectural concepts or principles or designs. So this other book includes that work, the performance pieces for pipe organ, for orchestra, for choirs, and the music that goes along with the architecture that is also exploring areas of acoustics. So that book is, I guess there's kind of like a standalone feel to all the books, but that one stands alone in how it's really focused on sound and music, because also in there there's a lot of writing about principles around sound and acoustics, and it delves into a number of areas. It's not only just about maybe what we might consider in terms of physics, but it also touches on sound healing, altered states of consciousness, and looks at how these things are integrated and how they relate to not only the music that I've written, but it also relates to the actual series of the Books of Magra. Because one other interesting feature, I think it's an interesting feature, to the series, is that the symbolism of sound is very, very important. Sound symbols come up all the time, and there are moments when the sounds actually, the description of sound and the experience of sound actually takes over and drives the moment, does more than set the scene. Sometimes sound is even coming across as another character. So to have a book that's devoted to principles and ideas and concepts around sound has not only been very valuable for me to work on, but it really enriches other things in the series. So having laid all of this out in a very quick fashion, I'm definitely going to talk more about specifics of all of these and in more detail. But for right now, I'm just painting a general picture of what makes up the writing, how basically some of it relates, and what there is to expect from the writing component of the Books of Magra.